was exactly a year ago when the first episode of Business Standards The Morning Show went on air. We had started with the promise of bringing in depth analysis of issues affecting the economy and demystifying the complex world of industry and financial markets for you. A year and 252 episodes on, the show's popularity attests to the fact that we have delivered what we promised. The show has become part of the daily routine for thousands. But for us, the journey has just begun. We strive to grow and keep you updated with the latest news and analysis. On that note, let us move on to today's episode. There is a new player in the fast moving consumer goods landscape, one which cannot be ignored. Reliance Industries' announcement to enter the sector will heat up the competition in the space dominated by the likes of HUL, ITC, Nestle India, and Patanjali. Will the oil to telecom conglomerate be a disruptor in this segment too? Let us find out.
Strong design and sourcing ecosystem has enabled us to grow our own brands across apparel and footwear.
This announcement by Isha Ambani during the annual general meeting of Reliance Industries is set to stir India's $110 billion fast-moving consumer goods sector, which is expected to double to $220 billion by 2025. Isha, who helms Reliance's retail business, said that the objective of the FMCG business is to develop and deliver high-quality, affordable products which address the daily needs of Indians. In the 1980s, Nirma took on the might of Hindustan Lever, now known as Hindustan Unilever, and moved ahead of Surf to capture a significant market share. Nirma was priced 75% cheaper compared to Surf. In fact, Nirma's success is also known to have forced Unilever and P&G to launch cheaper clones. After establishing its leadership in economy detergents, Nirma entered the premium segment, launching toilet soaps, Nirma Beauty Soap, and Shuddh Salt. Hindustan Unilever's Operation Sting, which stood for Strategy to Inhibit Nirma's Growth, resulted in the launch of Wheel in 1988. Despite the might HUL put behind Wheel to counter Nirma, Wheel could only scale to the top of the market in the early 2000s. Moving on, Reliance Retail is known to deeply undercut its rivals with its private label FMCG brands, which it currently sells at its Reliance Fresh and Reliance Smart supermarkets and hypermarkets. Taking its private label range to general trade will challenge well-established foreign groups like Unilever, Nestle, P&G, Reckitt, PepsiCo, and Coca-Cola, and homegrown companies like Dabur, Imami, Marico, ITC, Godrej Consumer, and Adani Wilmar, which last fiscal overtook Hindustan Unilever as India's biggest FMCG company, clocking a revenue of 54,214 crore rupees. Reliance will sell products like pulses and grains, edible oil, spices, biscuits, namkeens, ready-to-cook meals, ketchups, soft drinks, fruit juices, tea and coffee. Brands in the food space include Good Life, Desi Kitchen, Snack Tag, and Ya. In the non-food space, it has entered categories like soaps, face wash, hair oils, sanitizers, toothpaste, lipsticks, detergents, toilet cleaners, and agarbattis. Brands here include Get Real, Puric, My Home, Enzo, and Glimmer. At 6%, Reliance is incentivizing super stockists by offering double the margins compared to other FMCG companies. So, can Reliance compete against entrenched players on the shelves of the country's supermarket and kirana stores, the latter of which serve roughly 80% of the retail market?
Competitive intensity has already been high in India. It is not to say that Hindustan Lever or a Nestle or an ITC or a Marico or a Parle doesn't face competition even today. Today also they face competition maybe from local players, from the unorganized sector, for example. Even from relatively large players who have private label share like a DMart, for example. Yes, tactically they will come out with promotions, with discounting, with new variants, but that does not mean that they will start to lose market share. That does not mean that they will start to lose profitability. That is a point I would not draw a conclusion with. There is room for Reliance and many, many others besides Reliance to continue to grow without having to worry that am I taking market share away from Hindustan Unilever or ITC or Nestle or whoever, and vice versa. Each of these companies can also continue to grow without having to worry too much about Reliance.
Analysts say that Reliance's move could turn out to be the next big disruption in the FMCG market after Patanjali Ayurved made its aggressive entry into it in 2015. Patanjali had managed to make its presence felt almost immediately, making other FMCG companies launch their own Ayurvedic and natural products. While Reliance Retail's initial strategy is to take its own brands to general trade, it is keen to make acquisitions and is also looking at regional brands. After acquiring soft drink brand Campa, which held an iconic status in the 1980s, Reliance is reportedly in talks to acquire Garden Namkeens, Lahori Zira, and Bindu Beverages and Socio. Since it takes a long time to build brand recall and loyalty, can Reliance quickly establish its own brands in the market? Some of India's most successful FMCG companies have been in existence for over 100 years as well.
It takes a long time to build brand recall and brand loyalty. Reliance has just started. The single biggest advantage Reliance has compared to any other traditional FMCG company is Reliance has almost 15,000 points of sales as far as the physical retail stores are concerned. GeoMart itself is an app which has been operational for quite some time. So they do also have access to consumers through the digital channel. Number three, Reliance has been working with Kirana stores for a variety of initiatives over the last 2-3 years. So they do have some access, some connect to probably a few 100,000 or maybe a few million Kirana stores as well. The fourth part is very unique. They're building their own brands, but they're also very aggressively scouting for brands which might be available across India, which have either localized presence or in some cases a national presence. While some of the brands may not be well known, but they have increasingly embarked upon acquiring let's say, old and faded brands, Campa Cola being one example of today.
Reliance has internally set a target of 50,000 crore rupees turnover for the FMCG business. For a company that built its 2 trillion rupee retail business from scratch within 16 years, the target does not seem far-fetched. While Reliance's FMCG entry will not necessarily pose a threat to their market share, incumbents will have to pull up their socks to compete with the deep pockets of the new player.
Just like the FMCG firms, information technology companies are also feeling the margin pressure. It has forced some of the leading IT firms to reduce or hold back employee bonuses. Looming clouds of recession in the US and Europe are also making IT firms nervous as key clients are tightening their purse strings. So, for how long will Indian IT service providers face margin pressure? And is there a solution to it? Let us find out.
In August, Infosys, India's second largest IT firm, decided to cut the average variable payout of employees to 70%. The reason was falling operating margins in Q1 FY23. An uncertain economic environment was also one of the causes. Variable pay is the incentive firms give to their staff based on their performance. High attrition rates have led to increased employee costs. Thus, the operating margins of Indian IT companies have been affected during the last quarter of FY23. In August, Wipro held back its staff's variable pay due to the same reason. Other reported reasons for the move were inefficiencies in its talent supply chain and investment in technology. Citing sources, news agencies reported that from managers to the C-suite level, employees would not receive any portion of their variable pay. Employee grades ranging from freshers to team leaders would get 70% of the total variable pay. In April-June, Infosys saw its operating margin fall 3.7 percentage points from a year earlier to 20.1%. Meanwhile, Wipro's IT services margin fell from 18.8% to 15%. Earlier reports indicated that Tata Consultancy Services had also reduced, or at least deferred, variable payouts for the April-June quarter after its margins came under pressure. However, the latest reports say that TCS has made no cuts to variable pay, which was paid out without any delays. In September, TCS put an end to anniversary hikes for lateral hires who complete a year at the firm. It will now stick to the industry norm of annual salary hikes. But the anniversary salary hikes will continue for freshers. This comes at a time when the industry is facing demand constraints in its majority markets. Budgets are also under pressure and closing deals is taking more time. After a jump in margins and profits in the quarters following the COVID-19 breakout in March 2020, IT services firms now find themselves facing their biggest earnings challenge in more than a decade. With operating expenses racing ahead of revenue growth, the industry's operating margin declined to more than a decade low of 23.2% in Q1 FY23. During Q3 FY21, its operating margins had reached a 7-year high of 28.8% of the total income or revenues. But margins have been going downhill since then, despite double-digit revenue growth. According to ratings agency CRISIL, the IT sector is also estimated to see its revenue growth fall from 19% in FY22 to 12 to 13% in FY23. This would be the steepest fall in revenue growth in 8 years. The reason? Tightening IT spends by clients in the US and the European Union. And experts believe the industry may continue to face margin pressure despite lower projected attrition. Even if inflated talent expenses are contained, passing through the increased wage inflation and attrition costs to customers will be essential for margins to recover.
So the margin pressure is going to continue for a very long time because the market has become competitive and there is a lot of penetration of smaller players as well. And in each country, the local players are also giving a tough competition. So this challenge is going to continue because that also the differentiation of between the providers is diminishing. We see that a lot of standardization and consolidation, which is also happening. In this kind of a situation, we don't expect that the margin pressure will ease and the dream run of the IT companies are over.
So, how long will this scenario last? Also, what can IT firms do to successfully face the present challenge?
Our surveys are indicating that cost is becoming secondary, but the value is becoming more and more important and relevant for the customers globally. So from that perspective, we also see that there are few companies who are actually competing more on cost, which I think can be counterproductive over a long run. We are also seeing that a lot of companies who have successfully dealt with it have managed to transition from labor arbitrage to technology arbitrage. And also we see that the shift is happening from legacy to digital. The faster you make that particular shift, you are able to leverage the larger part of the value chain.
Withholding variable pay also indicates that the growth outlook of IT firms is softening as US and European clients tighten their budgets. In the latest Infosys earnings call, CEO Salil Parekh also indicated a bit of slowing in the decision-making from clients. With headwinds aplenty, the industry is left with no option but to move away from cost arbitrage. This is not a new prescription, but it's now or never if the industry wants to see another dream run in the years to come.
Mistry's untimely and tragic death has shocked everyone in the business world and beyond. It comes just 2 months after his father, Pallonji Mistry's demise. So what next for the multi-billion-dollar Shapoorji Pallonji Group? While analysts believe the professionally run group will see no impact on its functioning, they expect the ambiguity over the next mentor to cloud near-term outlook for group stocks. Our next report tells more.
The sudden death of Cyrus Mistry, the Shapoorji Pallonji Group's scion, has given the group a double blow. Mistry's father, Pallonji Mistry, had died on June 28, and now Cyrus Mistry's untimely demise has brought the focus back on the 157-year-old multi-billion-dollar group. Investors are worried about the group's succession plan, as they remain unsure if either of Mistry's two sons, Firoz and Zahan, is ready to take charge.
You see, I said the companies have been running professionally. That is not an issue. So that part I think is not to be seen as worried. But who's going to be the next mentor? He has two sons, but I think whether they are in a position to take over the activity right now or maybe later is something which is not known.
On the bourses, shares of Shapoorji Pallonji Group companies traded mixed on Monday. Eureka Forbes shares, where Shapoorji Pallonji and Company Private Limited held nearly 9% stake at the end of the June quarter, fell 1% on the BSE as against 0.75% gain in the benchmark Sensex index. Those of Sterling and Wilson Renewable Energy and Forbes and Company, meanwhile, tumbled 0.61% and 5%. Shapoorji Pallonji and Company Private Limited held 25% stake in Sterling and Wilson RE at the end of June 2022, while Cyrus Pallonji Mistry and Pallon Shapur Mistry held 0.38% stake each in their individual capacities. As regards Forbes and Company, Shapoorji Pallonji and Company Private Limited held 72.56% stake at the end of June 2022. That said, analysts say Mistry was only acting as a promoter in these listed companies, and hence they don't anticipate serious implications of his death on the company's future trajectory from a long-term perspective.
But yes, I mean, this will surely have an effect, no doubt, because end of the day, he was seen as someone who's steered it out of the sort of debt trap they're getting into and stuff like that. But then what we've seen typically in the past is that, such large groups, have proper second and third line. So we could have an initial knee-jerk, but then finally, I think it will settle down.
From investment standpoint, analysts say investors should stay put and avoid any impulsive decision. However, they caution that market participants should avoid buying the dips amid uncertainty. On Tuesday, markets will react to the outcome of the OPEC Plus meeting and eye other global triggers.
Financial markets in Europe sunk on Monday after the Russian decision to snap the gas supply via its Nord Stream 1. Watch our next report to know more about this pipeline and why is it so crucial for Europe.
Did you know that Russia fulfills nearly 40% of the European Union's natural gas requirement? And this gas reaches European shores through a 1,222-kilometer long pipeline passing through Baltic Sea called Nord Stream 1. This pipeline stretches from St. Petersburg to northeastern Germany, and another pipeline called Nord Stream 2 was under construction. Nord Stream AG owns and runs Nord Stream 1, and Russian state company Gazprom holds a majority stake in it. So in a way, the Russian government controls the gas and the pipeline. In an obvious retaliation to the sanctions slapped by the West for its attack on Ukraine, Russia had slashed the supply via Nord Stream to 40% in June. Next month, it was further reduced to 20%. And on August 31st, Moscow halted gas supplies for 3 days to Europe via Nord Stream 1, citing maintenance issues. But on Saturday, the shutdown was extended indefinitely. Energy prices in Germany, Europe's largest economy, are among the lowest in the continent, thanks to the cheap Russian gas. This also makes German manufactured goods more competitive in the international market. Russian threats to choke this gas supply to Europe present an economic threat to Germany. Gas prices in Europe are about 450% higher now than they were about a year ago. Clearly, the Russian move to restrict supplies has put the group of nations in a tight spot. Experts believe it may accelerate the recession in the region. The gas is also crucial to provide the required heating to Europe in the upcoming winter. Russia is using supply via the crucial pipeline as a bargain to navigate its economy through sanctions from the Western countries. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky had in July said that Putin is trying to wage an overt war against Europe using the pipeline. To expand its options and double the supply from Russia, Germany had decided to build Nord Stream 2, but it was halted in February post Russia's invasion on Ukraine. In response, Russia's former president and now deputy chairman of the Security Council, Dmitry Medvedev, tweeted, "Welcome to the brave new world, where Europeans are very soon going to pay 2,000 euros per 1,000 cubic meters."
I will achieve, I will fly high, in SBI.
I'm backed by the nation's trusted bank, SBI, the banker to every Indian.
European lenders have, meanwhile, accused Russia of blackmailing the region by using gas as an economic weapon. That's all for today. Thanks for your support. We'll be back tomorrow with our next episode. Thank you for watching.
If you like this video, share it and subscribe to Business Standard. For more news, views and insights, log on to www.business-standard.com. Do also follow us on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Telegram and LinkedIn.